So this notion of Trump being in his second or third term is not going away. And in fact, the media has gone crazy over certain comments that he's made over this weekend at the NRA conference during a speech that he had just made, as well as many other quote unquote clues. And so I want to approach this from a very objective perspective. Now, I am a Trump supporter, but I don't want to come out here and just say, you know what, he's the president, he won 2020 and blah, 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 because you're just going to have this argument for people wanting to believe what they want to believe based on their bias, based on their support, their political leaning and all this stuff. And so I want to take a step back and literally just tell you, giving you some proofs and different things. And I can't just tell you, you have to do your research, but you have to have an objective mind. And what I mean is that you have to have an unbiased point of view and you have to really desire truth. And you have to ask critical thinking questions to say, is it possible that Trump could still be commander in chief and that something happened? And the belief that many of us have is that because 2020 was stolen, and again, I don't want to just say it's stolen and that's what I want to believe. Imagine for a moment, taking a step back, if it was truly stolen, what would Trump have had to do to protect this nation from foreign domestic enemies, from infiltration and all this stuff without causing civil war? He would have had to put up some kind of act or show and communicate to a certain group of people, which I call audience 3, and some people in audience 2. You can go check out other videos that I have regarding this, but he communicates secretly to certain people. If you want to include Q in this, if you want to include Dan Scavino drops and these other kind of nefarious ways to communicate to people, and we'll look at some examples from this past weekend, as well as understand the idea that there is some kind of military operation going on to catch all these people. And so the basic premise is that he wants to hold, and I'm not saying just he as in Trump, but the white hats, the good guys, they want to hold the country and the world together. And in a secret, clandestine, some kind of secret operations way, he's going to allow certain things to be done legally. And so this is where people like Derek Johnson and many other people, they investigate the executive orders and who knows what's in the PEDs. But the idea that the suspension of the Constitution is possible, according to Article S9.C2.1, suspension clause and writ of habeas corpus, that the idea that you can suspend the Constitution, that you can pass executive orders without the intervention of Congress, this is within the legal right. And people that deny it, they don't know the Constitution. So this is why people study this stuff and they're trying to tell you what's going on. So the basic premise is that the nation was infiltrated, it was stolen, and Trump had to do something about it. And so this is why people are going crazy over some of the stuff that I'm going to mention right now. So before I get to the speech at the NRA, let's talk about what he's been saying recently. So a few days ago, you can look this up yourself, he said that we must respect laws and orders, in caps. And again, I'm just reading off of what Derek Johnson has talked about, and that we have to be restoring laws and order. So let's take a look at this clip very quickly.
What happens after Donald Trump wins? What's next for America? The economy booms. American energy is unleashed and an end to crushing taxes. The border is closed and the largest deportation in history is underway. No more wars as we focus on home. Law and order is restored. The American dream is back and the best is yet to come. Make America great again.
So forget about this being a political campaign or an advertisement. Really look at what he's saying. So one thing he's saying is that we will restore laws and orders, okay? So restore meaning to bring back or to reinstate. And so Derek says that current military and federal laws and orders more than clearly outlined in military occupation and a continuity of operations plan invoked. So military operation equals military law. And if you remember, Trump has been talking about being 45 through 47, okay? So the idea that he's the 45th president and that he uses this hyphen or this dash, 47, instead of like a colon, for example, or some other way to communicate this, it's talking about what a lot of people, and this is a little slightly older news, about why this is being done. And this is part 2 of his post, but experts disregarding 45 through 47 laws and orders in place, trying to take the laws into their own hands, have yet to explain this. If I'm crazy and don't know anything, then who's continuing these? So Biden, he's continuing, or this quote unquote Biden, is continuing certain executive orders that he's already put into place, right? So all of these every single year, Executive Order 50 USC 1701, 15 USC 1601, and just several other ones, right? I pulled up a couple of them, but these are being extended every single year. And there's much more of these. There's too much proof of a military occupation. And again, many guys go over the fact that the National Guard, there are certain things that are being done, certain ceremonies with the flags and the emblems. You have to really look at the minute detail of why the military is operating the way it is. And so this is why again, I'm not going to do a proof session here. There are other experts that do this very well, but they're explaining why there's too much proof of a military occupation and COG plan. And this leads me to the fact that a lot of people are talking about that, and again, this person commented, President Trump said, "We are a nation of laws and orders. Unprecedented times calls for unprecedented measures." How many times at rallies did he say we're in a pause? Don't look to others to tell you the truth. Listen and read. So now let's go to what he said over the weekend, because this is stirring up a lot of the controversy around this language. And let me remind you some of the clues of the drops and what other people have said. So let's listen to this very quickly.
FDR, 16 years, almost 16 years. He was 4-term. I don't know. Are we going to be considered 3-term or 2-term? You tell me. Ronnie, what do you think? Are we 3-term or 2-term if we win? But think of it. They're going to say, wonderful. Now, he did that state.
Now, of course, the media is taking this and saying that he's floating the idea of a 3-term presidency at the NRA convention. And Politico and these guys are going absolutely crazy and writing him off as a dictator. Now, this is what you would do if you don't have a brain and want to research. You have to look at the clues of what he's saying, right? So here's another clip of him talking about doing a lot of things and it all coming back, right? And that there's a deeper meaning behind what he's doing, but people laugh it off, right? People laugh this off, but you have to pay attention because he, again, has double meaning. So let's listen.
But just remember this, we'll go back and finish. You know, there is a genius to what I'm doing. You do know that. I go from here to there, and it all comes back into a beautiful picture. You know, it really, do you notice? It all comes back into a beautiful picture, great memory. It's a beautiful thing. But remember what they're going to do.
So again, he's saying that we're going to go back and finish, right, what we started, that he's going around and doing all these things, talking about the whole operation. And he's saying it in sort of a lighthearted way to the public without garnering much attention towards the operation. But really, when you look deeper into this, you would notice that he's talking about something that is far beyond what is, again, placed in at face value. So now let's talk about the pause really quickly. Trump has continually talked about this pause that we are in, right? People have commented about it. There has been other posts. I don't know which post this one is, but he also recently posted on Truth Social about this. And there's a video of him. You can watch it, but he's just basically waiting and in some sense making fun of the situation. But over the weekend at the same convention, Trump had a moment in his speech where he paused for 30 full seconds, or give or take. And let me just give you a snippet of this, but basically he's talking and then suddenly this music starts playing and people call it, this Biden-Harris HQ account says that it was some, QAnon music and it was some bizarre slur filled. Again, if you're biased, you're just going to say it this way. But to those that are cluing in on these drops and these clues and these comms, then you're going to see it very differently. So let's just take a look.
But now we are a nation in decline.
Now, it's not awkward or weird or anything. It's not like he froze up, but the media is making it out to be some kind of crazy glitch or even a health concern, marking him as senile because of this pause. And this is where you've got to use discernment to say what was really going on. Was this a signal? Was it intentional? Because these guys, again, are going to take this, and if you just read headlines and you don't really research, you're not going to believe and try to see the truth in all of this. And let me remind you what Dr. Jan Halper Hayes has said. This person is publicly declaring and claiming these words. And she's saying it not because she's senile and stupid and all these things, but because there's some substance behind it. She was part of the DoD task force. She was in government. She was a long-time leader in many companies. I come from consulting. I come from business. I remember that she was she was a partner, right? A managing director at PwC, among other places. You don't become a partner of a large consulting firm, or if you want to call it a accounting firm. These guys are not stupid. They're not sitting here and just saying things out of their butt, right? So let's listen to what she says.
Now, let me say something about this 2020 election, is that Biden is the legitimate president, but he's the legitimate president of what is now the bankrupt U.S. corporation. And that was a treaty in 1871. Well, on September 12th, 2018, Trump created an executive order. Within that, he outlined in future elections any kind of foreign or domestic interference, specifically for the 2020 election. So we say, how did he know some of these things were going to happen? Election integrity on both sides of the aisle is tough. It's really tough. But what this has done is it's opened the door for Trump to present his case.
Again, this was last November, but listen to what she's saying, right? Listen to what people are saying about the research and the stuff behind it. You want to look beyond looking at something at face value, because people are just angry about Trump. They just hate him and they just don't want to believe anything. You have to look at it objectively. You have to look at it like you would a judge or a lawyer without any bias. What really happened? Some people out there, they want to steal this country. They want to rule it from inside out without any of the legal ways that we do things. You have the elites. They want to take over this country. They want to do things on their own terms. And Trump, the White Hats, the military, whoever it is, they knew about this. They passed executive orders about future elections. They caught them in the act, and Trump did something about it, understanding, realizing there's an optics warfare going on because there are people that are not up to speed. They're blinded by the media, what they have done to Trump, demonizing him, and so many other things. So he's fighting a multi-pronged war on the propaganda side as well as on the truth side so that people can digest what really is going on. So this is why a lot of people are ahead and trying to understand that, okay, so what's really this continuity of government operations? What's really going on with laws and orders? Trying to figure that out. And you have people that are on the front lines doing that to try to educate the public, while at the same time, Trump is not out there proclaiming optically, like transparently, oh, this is what's really going on, because there's a real war that's happening. So this is why it's very hard to speak to mass population. You can only speak to those that are really awake, what I call in audience 3. And then in audience 2, they are going to catch up because they have to digest more of the basic things like the left versus right. You have to understand morality. You have to understand biblical principles and things like that. So this is why many of us are proclaiming the truth of what's happening in our perception of reality of what's going on in the world today. And so there's a big battle. The Iran thing, just all of the craziness that's happening in the Middle East as well as other parts of the world, because there's a takedown, a global takedown happening right now as we speak. And they're going to cleanse things. And then we're going to have the people come back to be in power and for law and order to be restored to this country and also hopefully to the world. And we're going to make this place a much better place, because the first common enemy, despite what you think of any other country, is that they have to get rid of this evil cabal, the global banking, whatever elite people that have had such a stronghold on the world for such a long time. So this is what's happening, and people are not going to realize it or understand it unless they get into it and they break their bias of hating the person, of a movement, of this left versus right thing, or these MAGA people, or whatever category of people or stereotypes you want to put in there, and actually want to figure out the truth and humble themselves before the Lord and say, you know what, Lord, despite whatever bias, whatever media tells me, I want to know what's really going on. So this is what's happening. I want to just give you guys this quick encouraging word as we look forward to all the other stuff that's happening. So love you guys. It's a great proof, a great comms weekend, and there's more to come, guys. Love you guys. Talk to you guys very soon.